Hey my lovelies, salam and welcome to my channel. I hope you're all very well. So for this recipe you are going to need some coconut. That is the main ingredient. I'm using the frozen shredded coconut. Of course you can use fresh ones too. So in a saucepan or a pan, just pour a dash of oil and I think I've got about 2 tablespoons there, 2 bay leaves and some dry spices. That's green cardamom and cinnamon sticks. So cooking on slow heat, break all the coconuts down until they are nice and soft, and then I'm going to add some date molasses for this recipe instead of sugar. So I use 2 tablespoons. Of course you can use more or less depending on how sweet you would like your fobs to be. And I am going to use another sweet ingredient. It's not going to be sugar. So I've just added a splash of water. The coconut is still very raw and you can tell as you're trying to stir and mix, that sound it's quite obvious, and when you come to cooking it you'll know exactly what I mean. And the water is going to definitely help with basically softening the coconut and making sure it's nicely cooked through. So that's jaggery. Remember I said at the beginning of the video that I'm going to use an additional sweetener, and that's what it's going to be. So a final ingredient that's going to go into the filling is fennel seeds. I've just grinded some and just going to use the end of my teaspoon to add to the mix. Fennel seeds adds flavour and fragrance to this recipe. It is a great combination with the coconut. Once the coconut is cooked, turn off the gas and take out any dry spices. Mashallah, the smell, the fragrance, the aroma of this combination of date molasses with coconut literally took over my whole kitchen. Now whilst this is cooling down, I am going to get on with the pastry. For the pastry you will need some semolina. I'm using the coarse semolina, and then some plain flour. So in a bowl, place some flour. Now I'm not using a measuring cup, this is just all out of, because I've done it so many times, sort of guesstimate, but I would say that's about 1.5 cup of flour there. And about 1/4 cup of semolina. A little salt and a drizzle of oil. That's vegetable oil. You can of course use sunflower or even coconut oil if you like. Then add a little water and start mixing with your hand into a nice soft dough. I would use the water a little at a time, so add a little mix and see how much more you need. Just the same way as you would do with chapati, roti, same method. To get the dough nice and soft, you need to knead it really well, placing your knuckles right into it. It does take a bit of effort, but becomes easier with practice. As you can see, my dough is nice and soft, and this is exactly how it should be. Cover it with a lid and then let it rest for about 5 to 10 minutes. For this stage, I'm going to use one of these pastry cutters. I bought mine from the pound shop here in the UK. If you live in the US, you can probably get it from the dollar shop. They tend to sell them in general stores as well. Quite widely available here in the UK. It's really handy, very quick to do the pastries. If you don't, not to worry, because I will be showing you 2 other ways where you can do it without the cutters. A little tip, rub some flour on the edges or the rim of your cutter so that the pastry doesn't get stuck or stick to the sides. Leftover, the excess pastry from the sides for reusing. Remember, you don't need to roll the pastry into a very large one, as all you need to do is cover the pastry cutter. As long as it fits in there nicely, that's absolutely fine. And then just obviously use your hands to remove, take off the excess, and voila! It's as simple as that. If you've got older kids in the house, this can be a great recipe for them to join into and have a bit of fun, especially now that we're still in lockdown and quarantined at home. The temperature in my kitchen that day was a little warm, and I noticed the fobs getting stuck to the bottom, hence why I'm now using a baking paper. I am going to be freezing them until Eid day. What I normally do is once they're frozen nice and flat, I would then either place them in a Ziploc bag or in a box in an orderly fashion so I can easily take them out when I need to, defrost and then fry. For defrosting, I don't actually put them in a microwave or anything. I just leave them out under room temperature. That is the best way to do it for this recipe. So here is a recap in case you missed any of the steps. I've taken the size of a 50p from the dough, turned it into a nice ball with my hand, and then tapped it, flattened it out, and now using a rolling pin. The shape doesn't need to be very round at all, as we are going to use the pastry cutter. And that's my little helper there, trying to do the same thing as Mummy. He's got his very own miniature version of the pastry cutter. It's so cute. Place it on top of the cutter, then the filling, and then close it nice and tight. Put in a little pressure so that it's sealed. And then just use your fingers to remove the excess. So this was my first batch. There's about 10 fobs there. I then made another batch, so altogether I had about 20 odd fobs. And this little cute miniature version was the effort of my bubba. I'm now going to share with you how to make these without the pastry cutter. There are two different ways. The first is using a fork. Just use the tip of your fork, pressing it down all the way around until it's nicely sealed. So for the final method, you are not going to need any extra equipment. You won't need a fork, you won't need a cutter, just your hands. And this is the traditional way of doing this pastry. I remember my mum doing it when I was growing up, and then her mum also did it, so it's been going on for years. So I'm using the tip of my finger to bring the side in, pressing it down, and then at the same time closing the sides and making this lovely pattern. If I've not quite explained that very well, you can see visually exactly what I've just done. Feel free to rewind back and watch all over again. Here I'm going to show you exactly what it looks like once it's fried. You will need to deep fry these. Apologies, my oil is slightly yellow tinted here. It's because this oil has been used and I am reusing. Although I would recommend that if you're frying anything sweet, especially for this recipe, it's probably best to use fresh oil. And the color obviously would be a lot more paler if you did. And guys, please remember to subscribe to my channel. If you did like this video, also hit that like button. I'm going to now break one and show you exactly what it looks like from the inside, and mashallah, it looks so scrumptious, so yummy.